What's up, guys? So as some of you might know, I just beat The Walking Dead 400 Days. I have a full Let's Play on my channel, so if you would like to check that out, feel free. I'll put an annotation right here. Oh wait, you can't put annotations on YouTube right now. Why? I don't know, because it's stupid. So scratch that. Link will be in the description. So since 400 Days is a short story that is told in segments, character segments, out of order, I thought why not make a video where I piece them all together so you could see the storyline consecutively, and that way I could talk about the references not only between the characters, but also to the actual game, The Walking Dead. So let's get started, shall we? So the DLC starts off by panning through a bulletin board with different pictures of missing persons. It focuses on one area with our 5 main characters. And for a second, you think that your game glitched out because it just stares at the bulletin board and you're like... Although they give you this option of choosing out of order, there is a consecutive order to the storylines. So this is how the actual order goes. We start with Vince, and then it goes to Wyatt, and then we go to Russell, and then Bonnie, and finally Shel. Adding up all those days equals 400 days in. But before we jump into Vince, there's this little clip, and by little I mean little, like tiny. And then it comes to the zombies ruining everybody's day, like they always do. If we go back to that clip of the diner when everything was nice and perfect, we see none other than Kenny and Duck from the original Walking Dead game getting into the same truck that they had when Lee met them. How did I know it was Kenny and Duck? Through the magic of zooming in. So now we can move on to Vince, who I thought was Glenn. I was certain that was Glenn. I even said it in my Let's Play. I was like, oh, it's that one guy. But yeah, they're not the same guy. Not only because they don't have the same name, but also because it's just not him. But in the first scene that we see Vince in, he's pointing a gun at an unknown guy that is pretty much begging him not to shoot him, and then he says, I don't even know your brother. And when Vince runs out of the location that he shot the guy in, he runs past a drugstore, and it's the same drugstore, Lee's parents' pharmacy. So that means that he is in Macon, the same area where Glenn was in. A lot of people are actually thinking that this is Glenn's brother. Now, I don't know if that's really his brother, because I don't know anything about Glenn besides what we learned about him in the Walking Dead game, because I don't watch the TV show. And before you ask, oh my god, like, why don't you watch the show? It's like so good. Why are you stupid? I don't watch it because I'm a chicken. And I'm not ashamed to say so. One thing is playing a game where the zombies look like cartoon characters, and another thing is watching a TV show where it looks like they actually dug up dead people and paid them to walk around. Anyways, the next time we see Vince, he is in a convict transportation bus on his way to jail for killing the guy. Here we meet 2 other characters, Danny and Justin. Danny is allegedly accused of raping a girl, a 15-year-old girl, as Justin points out, but he defends himself saying that he was wrongly accused and that things weren't as they seemed. Justin, on the other hand, is a thief. Like a major one, where he walks away with millions of dollars and he's not ashamed of it. In fact, Vince asks him how he lived with it or something like that, how he was able to do that to people, and he says, easy. I didn't think about it. Next, all of a sudden, 2 guys start fighting with each other. One of the guys starts choking the other guy with his handcuffs. One of the cops bravely tries to break the fight up, but his means of breaking it up is... okay, yeah, that's one way of doing it. So now 2 dudes are dead. One guy has his head blown off, and the other guy was choked to death. Oh my god. The suffocated guy is gonna come back to life and eat their brains. So yeah, it does happen. The zombie ends up killing the trigger-happy cop and is trying to get to the other 3 prisoners. But let's stop for a minute here. That cop in the background that's like, OMG, I'm so out of here. Let's just remember his face. So you pick up the trigger-happy cop's gun and you shoot the zombie in the face. Woo! Killed that zombie like a mother. But then like 10 zombies board the bus. And you're still in chains. Then your typical Walking Dead moment comes where they pull your heart out and they make you choose between 2 people. Shoot one of their legs so that you could get free. Who are you gonna shoot? The rapist that said he was wrongly accused? Or the thief that gladly boasts about his crime? Depending on who you shoot here is going to directly apply to the ending, which I will go in later. So after you shoot one of the guy's legs off, you and the other guy are free and you run off the bus, abandoning the guy with no foot. So now let me quickly go back and let me point out some references that will tie to the story later on. Check out the camper. See what it says up on top? I don't know what it says. QTO, Cochos, whatever the hell that is, but remember that name. And then we've got these two people running away from a bunch of zombies. Who is that? Becca and Shel. And of course the OMG I'm so out of here cop. So now we move on to Wyatt, who is 41 days into the zombie apocalypse. So with Wyatt, we obviously start off in a chase scene. We don't know what the hell happened, but we do see Wyatt and another guy, Eddie, who is obviously his best friend because they're just arguing about everything. So it turns out that they were in some kind of brawl and they ended up shooting a guy. And now that dead guy's companion is back for some you know what. When Eddie hands Wyatt a gun to shoot at the guy, you end up shooting one of the truck's headlights. Take note which headlight you shot. So after some weird conversation between you and Eddie as you're driving in the dark through the woods, nothing can go wrong. Shit! It's the OMG I'm so out of here cop! He's been wandering around the same area for over a month, which really didn't help him at all. So Eddie insists that one of you guys go check. After a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, one of you ends up going outside and one of you ends up staying inside the car. Again, depending on what happens here is what's gonna happen at the end, which I will go into later. If you end up staying in the car like I did, Eddie throws you his keys, conveniently falling down into the black hole. That's what I call under the seat of the car. Anything that falls down there, you're never gonna find. But amazingly, Wyatt does find the keys. But when he looks back up and turns off the light, he sees... Shit! Ah! After the struggle, you end up slamming the guy's fingers into the car door, which actually looked like you ripped his fingers off. It's just a glitch. Son of a bitch! You get away and you drive off, leaving Eddie out in the fog alone. Now, things to note. The truck. Remember that headlight that you shot off. The guy, remember that face. And the glitched hand that got slammed into the car door. So now moving on to Russell, 184 days in. Russell's storyline starts off with him walking down this empty road that looks very familiar. If you've played The Walking Dead, a truck starts driving down the road. Look at that headlight. If you choose to hide in the bushes, you see a very familiar face with a worm crawling out of her eye. It's Carly. Remember the girl that got shot by Lily? Yeah. Although you are hiding, the guy in the truck isn't fooled. He sees you and offers you a ride. So if you didn't remember the truck was the same one from the Wyatt story, check out his hand. And look at him. He looks exactly the same as the dude that attacked Wyatt. So this is the guy, and his name is Nate. Thanks for asking. So after you get some one-on-one time with Nate, you find out that he's a perverted sicko. But this was actually an interesting change because for the first time, you're actually on the other side. The side that would always raid your camp and shoot you out. So like every previous character and every character that comes, you end up at Gil's Pit Stop, that diner. Nate stops here to see what they could loot. While you guys are talking about this, a sniper almost shoots your head off. Both of you end up in this shootout, but pretty much you're just trying to get from one place to the other to try to avoid the guy's shots. Eventually both of you end up sneaking up through the back of the diner, and you quickly find out that the sniper was this old guy and his dying wife. But the interesting thing is what the old guy says.
I told you not to come back here. Think you could just leave your mask at home?
So Nate was already here? Was he the one that shot the old lady? As if you needed more reasons to be creeped out by Nate. Turns out he's happy to kill anyone for supplies. You could either choose to stick with Russell or you could just leave and not have a part of it, but he ends up killing the old couple anyways. So here's one thing to remember about this story. Remember the area where the old couple gets killed inside the diner. Oh, and remember the old lady's face. Oh, and remember the zombie hanging out on the floor right there. So I know, Nate was a murdering, crazy, creeper, sicko dude, but I gotta admit, he was pretty funny. I think Nate was a much better character than even Russell. The major reason is because Nate seeped personality. Here are some moments with Nate.
I see you culling with your girlfriend down there. Shit, bro. You understand? Fine. Fuck. See if I give a shit. Fuck, she like to party? Shit, bro. Nobody got down with the daughter then?
No.
And I found out.
Damn it. Fuck if I know. He's crazy.
Are you serious?
Maybe. Why not?
Shit, bro.
Next, we move on to Bonnie, 200 days in. The first line that you hear is this.
Okay, got one. A snake for a tongue.
You're so bad at this.
Here we're introduced to Bonnie and Leland, who is voiced by our favorite cannibal, Andy St. John, from the original Walking Dead game. Every time I hear his voice, I always hear, "Don't you walk away from me, Lee! Lee! Get back here, Lee!"
You're a good friend, Leland.
Look, you know I ain't going nowhere, right? As long as we're together, I'll be there for you. You ain't gotta worry. You know that, right?
What are you saying?
Bonnie,
Leland? Bonnie?
Leland's wife shows up, Dee.
Get away from my man, junkie.
So probably the most intriguing part of the story, Dee says that she found this bag and that it's a present for Leland. Turns out she stole the bag from a group of people, which you don't know who they are just yet, but let's just remember that. You guys start running away from these people and you get shot in the arm. As if this wasn't enough, you take a dive down the mudslide of death. Oh, who is that? It's hard to see here because it's dark, but that zombie was the trigger-happy cop that shot that guy's head off in Vince's story. How do I know it's him? Because he's got the cop outfit, somehow he got a screwdriver in his eye, and he's still in the same area. There's the bus that he must have crawled out of. Now, this guy really likes to crawl around, and he's been going from one place to the other. He crawled out of the bus, and then ended up at the diner, and then he crawled back to the bus because when he was waving his arm around here in Russell's story, which happened before Bonnie's story, he went from the bus to the diner, and then back to the bus where he found Shel. So since the group that is chasing you guys keeps chasing you guys, you are led into a cornfield. After an intense moment of making your way through the dark cornfield, you get a slight glimpse of who is chasing you.
Anything?
No, I can't see a damn thing out here.
And if you played Bonnie's story before Shel's story, you have no idea who these people are, which I didn't. So for now, let's just remember the flashlight people's voice, and the fact that the guy calls the girl Steph.
Steph, you see something?
After you run out of the cornfield, you end up hiding behind a tractor, getting hold of a rebar, and smashing somebody's face in. Now, of course, you think this is one of your pursuers, and it actually says pursuer on the bottom left-hand corner. But guess what? It wasn't a pursuer, it was Dee. Here you end up witnessing one of the most disturbing scenes in the Walking Dead games.
God, you killed me. You killed me.
Shit, bro.
Now, of course, before Dee dies, she tells you how much she hates you and how you were trying to take her man away. After she gets all this off her chest, she finally dies. Enter Leland in an awkward moment where he's like, "Oh my god, you got shot!" And you're just like... When he finally sees Dee, he runs towards her and asks you what happened. You could either lie, or you could just tell the truth. Eventually, you and Leland take off, but before he leaves, he goes back and picks up that mysterious bag.
she's gonna die for this thing. I for damn sure ain't leaving it behind.
Then we move on to Shel, 236 days in. This is most likely the longest character segment because the other ones range from 13 to 15 minutes and this one was a little bit over 20 minutes. You get introduced to Shel, her sister Becca, Stephanie, and Roman. Remember those flashlight people in the cornfield? Listen to Roman's voice.
In that case, let's get back to work. Where are you?
He was the dude in the cornfield chasing after Bonnie. And remember he called out for Steph? That's Stephanie. If you didn't make the connection by then, later on they do talk about losing a flashlight in the cornfield.
Still in the cornfield somewhere, I guess.
Which was the flashlight that Dee had gotten that Bonnie eventually threw out. There's also a connection to Russell's story. There's a bloodstain on the floor that they have no idea how it happened. But if you remember in Russell's story, Nate killed those old people right in that spot. So that's what the bloodstain's from. So after checking on the supplies, you head on back to talk to Roman, and you are scared crapless by this zombie that is tied up by the neck on a pole. I was like, what is this? Their pet or what? But oh, let's take a good look at that zombie. It's the OMG I'm so out of here cop. The guy that took off in Vince's story and the guy that Eddie hit. The guy that Eddie went out looking for. Now of course this happened in my story. It might have happened differently in yours. But this is the same dude. Which led me to think that Eddie must have found the bus driver. But he must have died on him and he just abandoned him. And now he's a watchdog. For others, I heard that it could also be the old man that Nate shot in the diner. And the second zombie is the old lady that Nate shot. Then comes a really big reference to the original Walking Dead game. Remember the cancer survivor group that Vernon was part of? These guys were in that survivor group.
The last time we did that, we lost Bree. And then Vernon with that goddamn boat.
I still can't believe we let that guy threaten us like that. If that guy Lee had told me I didn't have the balls, I'd have shot him on the spot. Can't trust nobody.
The dialogue is slightly different depending on what you did in the Walking Dead game, but for me, this is what happened. So once again, you're faced with a decision. Do you kill this guy that slipped into your camp, or do you let him go? The group is torn because if you let him go, his posse might come back and kill you all. I chose to let the guy go, so 23 days later, you realize that there was an attack. The guy did come back with his posse and ended up killing one of your members. Boyd. One of the cancer survivors, the guy that was also on your side for letting the guy go. When Shel leaves the camper, you see Otto Cochos, or whatever the hell it says, that we saw in Vince's story. So remember when Shel and Becca were running from the zombies in Vince's story? They must have gotten into the camper and bailed.
They caught Stephanie stealing and then trying to escape. Oh my god. What are they gonna do?
Turns out that you pretty much have to do it. So you go back into the camper to get your gun, you tell Becca what's going on, she's bummed out, but then she's like, oh well, we gotta do it. Do you want me to do it? Kid, what's wrong with you? So you have another choice on your hands. Decide to leave or go and kill Stephanie. I decided to bail. So that's the end of the character segments. After this, we see a lady at the same bulletin board again, looking at the pictures that you were looking at in the beginning. There's also a drawn map where it pretty much shows where the survivors are. When she finds them, all the characters are together in the camp, and she introduces herself as Tavia. She's part of a group that looks for survivors to take them to a safe place. So depending on what you did throughout the stories is who's gonna join Tavia. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is definitely setting up for season 2. Are these characters gonna be the main characters in your group, or are they just gonna be cameoed characters? I don't know, but I think they're probably going to have a major role in Season 2 since they actually made a DLC all for them. They're probably just introducing these characters to us to already grow a connection to them, which is a big deal for Telltale. They make you love these characters and then put you through a roller coaster ride when it comes to the game. So I can't wait, but one thing for sure, I don't think this place is going to be as safe as Tavia is saying, or if it is, by the time that we play Season 2, it's probably going to be overrun or is going to be starting to get overrun like Crawford. So hopefully that was interesting to you guys. If I missed anything, please feel free to tell me in the comments and let me know who was your favorite character out of those 5 characters. My favorite character was probably Wyatt. I don't know why, I just think he was pretty cool. I would love to know more about him. And I also found Bonnie kind of interesting for some reason. Her story was really interesting to me because I really wanted to know what was in that bag, and I want to know what happened to Leland. If you want to know what I actually thought about the game, did I like it, did I not like it, that kind of stuff, I will be talking about that in my review. So that should come soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Well, I found out what it's like to walk among the cobras and to really be alone and to pick at all the bones. Well, I found out what it meant to really say I'm starving, and the truth was so alarming, and in fact I find it haunting. Oh well, I found out what they meant to walk among the cold.